This question has been a common one, and it's, can chiropractors get economic injury disaster loans through the SBA and take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program? So the things that that people have been talking about before this week, when they're talking about getting some assistance from the government, it's mainly been disaster loans. So disaster loans are what they are loans that they make that have low interest rates and really long repayment terms. That it's usually meant for like hurricanes, tornadoes, like natural disasters. So when they did the national emergency, it allowed those disaster loans to be available. So I've had a couple of people ask me or think that you cannot get the disaster loans and the Paycheck Protection Program. I have been of the opinion that you would be able to, but you couldn't use, it's a little bit complicated, but I'm going to read this is from Marco Rubio's office, which is, he's on I think the entrepreneurial, the small business and entrepreneurship subcommittee. And they're the ones that wrote this part of the bill. So I just want to read this verbatim. If I have applied for or received an economic injury disaster loan related to COVID-19 before the Paycheck Protection Program became available, will I be able to refinance into a PPP loan? Yes, if you received an EIDL loan related to COVID-19 between January 31st, 2020 and the date at which the PPP becomes available, which should be next week, you would be able to refinance the EIDL into the PPP for loan forgiveness purposes. However, you may not take out an EIDL and a PPP for the same purposes. So the EIDL can be used for really any type of operating expenses. The PPP has very specific categories that you can use it for, which is mainly payroll, interest on mortgage, loans, rent and utilities, and health insurance premiums. So you can't get an EIDL loan to cover your paychecks or your payroll if you're also using the PPP to cover your payroll. That makes sense. Remaining, this is continued from the document, remaining portions of the EIDL for purposes other than those laid out in loan forgiveness terms for a PPP loan would remain a loan. If you took advantage of an emergency EIDL grant award of up to $10,000, that amount would be subtracted from the amount forgiven under PPP. So this is where this is the way I understood it. So the EIDL grant award up to $10,000, if I recall in the bill, it basically, if you applied for the EIDL and you didn't get it, they would give you an advance for $10,000, and if you didn't get the loan, you got to keep the $10,000. But it may have been like a grant program or something. So if you have gotten the $10,000, you could still get the PPP, but let's say you were eligible for $50,000 under the PPP program, that $10,000 that you got from the disaster loan grant award would be subtracted from that loan forgiveness. So basically they're not going to give you double free money for basically the same thing. You're also not going to be able to borrow money for the things that the PPP loan cover, which is mainly the payroll and the things that I just listed. So that gives me a little bit, because a lot of this stuff, it's like anything that you're reading out there right now that is somebody's blog post, they basically did the same thing that I did, which was read the bill and give their interpretation of it. Some of the language is vague, and the SBA has 30 days from now, I believe, or from when it passed, to clarify the process and the rules and how things are going to be forgiven. So some of these things that are kind of unclear right now should be cleared up as the SBA works through the individual situations. But this is pretty clear. This is from the Senate committee that wrote this part of the bill. They're saying that you can get a disaster loan and that you can take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program. So, so that's good news for anybody that was kind of wondering. They didn't want to screw their chances of getting a disaster loan if they took advantage of this program. So hopefully that clears that up.